Hello, welcome to another episode of Field of Screams podcast. After rewatching every single Halloween movie, going from the very OG to the Thorn trilogy, to hanging out with Tom Atkins, to going with David Gordon Green, to hanging with Rob Zombie, to bringing Jamie Lee Curtis back three different times, whatever. She's been back 1,000 times. We are finally here. We are taking the gloves off. We are going to rank these movies from the worst to the best. It is Judgment Day. Now, as I was going through these movies, I've kept a list of movies. I try to just put them in order because I knew this episode was coming, and this list has switched very many times while I was going through these movies because each and every movie kind of has its own individual flavor. So depending on the day, your list could change up. At least that's how my list is. And this is just where my list ended up. This is my overall ranking, my ranking of movies that I enjoy the most. I'm not doing this critically. These are just the ranking of me, myself, what I enjoy the most, what I would go back to. Well, alright, let's get this party started. I won't keep you waiting any longer. Starting with the very first film, the worst film of this entire trilogy. There are a couple stinkers that usually dwell at the bottom of people's list, and my worst movie of this franchise is Halloween Resurrection. Now, on paper, this movie kind of seems like an interesting idea. Going back to the 2000s, the reality TV shows, they're taking a group of people into Michael Myers' house where he grew up in, and then bad things happen. You could get found footage angles. You would think it would lead to a pretty kind of scary movie. The atmosphere could be great, and there are times where the atmosphere can be good in this film. And there's times where Michael Myers does look cool. But overall, it's just very hard for me to get past the Busta Rhymes part. He is such a meme in this movie, running around like Michael Myers is a shark. And then it gets to near the end and he's berating Michael Myers. He's like, get the hell out of here. And Michael Myers is just putting his head down and walking away after Busta Rhymes goes off on him. Michael Myers gets shocked in the nuts and you see his eyes go wide and he's like, whoop. And he's getting kung fu kicked and he gets defeated by Busta Rhymes. It's just very anticlimactic. You got a character that we all love so much, Michael Myers, and yet here he's just getting berated and beaten up, and the idea just really falls flat with this movie. I think it's a terrible movie. I hate going back to it. But I had to for this podcast, and when I rewatched it, I did not feel any other way. It is my least favorite film of this franchise. My second worst Halloween movie of this franchise, ranking at number 12, is Halloween Ends. This might seem really high to some people. I know this movie has its fans. But this movie really suffers because the studio and David Gordon Green, they did not plan their trilogy all the way through, and it seemed like by the time they got to this one, they sat around during COVID too long, and they're like, yeah, the stuff that we did in the past two movies, that was fun and all, but what if we just did this instead? And to me, that just really, really, really sucks. It really does. Because, we start this movie, we get this character, Corey, who had never shown up in the past two movies. If they wanted to do this, they should have showed him in Halloween 18 or Halloween Kills. They didn't. So they have to introduce him. A tragedy happens. You feel bad for Corey. He gets bullied by band bullies. He gets picked up a little bit by Lori. She introduces him to her granddaughter. They hit it off instantly. And then we get this love story, and to be honest, the first 20 minutes, I'm like, you know what, this is kind of coherent, I'm okay with this. But then they take us on this story to where Corey like turns to the dark side because Michael touched him, and they become like tag team partners. And then Corey becomes evil, and Laurie's like, "Oh, Corey's evil," and she's scolding him even though she showed him Allison. To be honest, I just wish they would have focused more on Allison. I kind of complained about that from Halloween 18 to Kills. I was like, "Oh, they showed too much of Laurie, we need more Allison," and in this movie she takes a backseat again to Corey, a character that we just met. By the time you're done with this movie, it just feels like you have whiplash. It goes too many different directions, it tries to do way too much, and it just doesn't feel great. And the climax of this movie, the showdown between Laurie and Michael, isn't that great. If you want the showdown between Laurie and Michael, watch Halloween 18 or watch H2O, because those are way better than what we got in this movie. Also, Michael Myers kind of goes through a goofy phase in this movie. I mean, we go from Halloween Kills, where he's this gigantic juggernaut that like kills off like half the town, and he's walking off strong, and you're like, oh man, Michael's on the loose, there's no stopping Michael. And then we come to this film and he like turns into Pennywise in the sewer. Corey goes in there after getting beat up by the band bullies, and he throws Michael around, takes his mask like he's a bully taking candy away from a little kid. It's embarrassing for Michael Myers. And even when Michael Myers like stabs people, he's like shaking and vibrating, and he's like powering up. And it's like, I don't know. I don't like it. I do not like this movie at all. It sucks that it is the very end of the trilogy that I like now. I really do. I really like Halloween 18. I like Halloween Kills. But then, like, whenever I start these movies, I'm like, yeah, but then it ends with the Corey story. And I know there's also some people that say, like, oh, this is like a cool little one-off movie, though, if you pretend that it's its own thing. And even that I kind of disagree with. I think this movie feels really disjointed. Corey makes a switch really quick from, hey, Allison, I love you, to, we need to burn this city down. And Allison's like, yeah, that sounds good. Like, this was a straight A student in Halloween 18, like, she did no wrong. But now she's, like, down with, like, burning the city down. And I know she's probably thinking he meant metaphorically, maybe. But it just seems like all way too much. I just don't think it's a very good film at all. So that's why it's number 12. Coming in at number 11 is Halloween 6. This movie was really hard to rank for me because it has good Halloween atmosphere, which you want in every Halloween movie. It definitely feels like it takes place in the Halloween universe. But the thing about this film is, like, I grew up watching Halloween and Halloween 4 and Halloween 5, and I loved all those movies. Halloween 4 and 5, they feel really just nostalgic to me, and for the longest time I didn't know Halloween 6 existed. And then, like, when I went to Blockbuster, like, I saw it and I was like, oh, no way, like, they continue the story, that, like, I like so much. I get to see what Danielle Harris is doing, and see how the story wraps up. And I rented it, super excited, and it just felt like this movie took everything I liked about 4 and 5 and the ones before that, and just took my heart and stomped on it. For one thing, they didn't bring Danielle Harris back, but then the very next thing, opening scene, they kill off the character Jamie, who's been the main character for the past 2 movies. If anyone was interested in Halloween 6, they're probably going to want to know what happens to Jamie. And she dies right away. You would think they would learn from Halloween 5, killing off Rachel super early in the film, but no, they kill off Jamie even sooner. So I don't know, like, it just puzzles me sometimes, because people criticize 5 super hard for the Rachel death, but then in 6, they just killed Jamie right off the bat. But even when Jamie dies, they kind of release the plot point of Michael Myers impregnated little Jamie, and that's the little baby that we're following around in this movie. So Jamie's is Michael Myers' niece. How young was she? Like, it's just a very weird thing to put into the movie. Even if you can look past that, I don't think there's very many likable characters in this movie. And the plot itself, it just feels like just a very weird movie overall. Sometimes it doesn't really make sense, and it gets a little too wild with the cult of Thorn. If you ever get a chance to read about what happened behind the scenes of this movie, it's actually more interesting than this movie in general. This movie was bought by the Weinsteins about like halfway through creating it, and the Weinsteins came in, and the director was really young. I mean, I went through several directors, but the one that finally landed, he was really young, and the Weinsteins are like really demanding, always wanting different things. I read an interview. It was either the director or one of the main writers, but they were just pulling their hair out because the Weinsteins kept changing different stuff up. And there was at one point one of them gets a phone call, and the director looks at the writer, and he's like, "They want us to get rid of everything with the cult." And the writer's like, "But that's what the whole movie's about. What are we gonna do?" But then he can hear over the phone Weinstein screaming, "Get these fucking cult costumes out of here. We're not using them." And it was just a huge, ginormous mess for everyone involved. Besides atmosphere, it does have Donald Pleasence in it as his last Halloween movie. He doesn't have too many scenes in it. I guess the Weinsteins wanted his scenes cut out because they wanted to start a brand new direction. And unfortunately, he passed away in the middle of this movie or towards the end of it. And they say the film's in honor of Donald Pleasence, but it really stinks that this is the movie he went out on. But, I mean, at least he's in it. And yeah, so that's my number 11. My number 10 is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. The first 25 minutes of this movie are fantastic. I love every bit of the first 25 minutes. It feels like a Halloween movie. It's awesome. We're at the hospital. It's raining. The atmosphere's great. Michael Myers is tearing down buildings. But then they reveal it's a dream. And then the rest of the movie kind of floats in this weird thing of where there's lots of visions. Laurie, she goes downhill. She has serial killers posted up on her wall. She's screaming for most of the movie. She's like, "I'm gonna kill you!" Or just, "Ah!" And it annoys the living crap out of me. I can't take that. Dr. Loomis, he turns into a complete diva in this movie. I mean, Malcolm McDowell, he did a good job with Dr. Loomis in Rob Zombie's first Halloween movie. So I really don't know why we decided to go this route. Rob Zombie probably trying to be creative. It's funny. It's funny, but it's bad. It's like character assassination between Laurie and Dr. Loomis. Michael Myers, he turns into a hobo throughout most of this movie too. He has a gigantic beard. And we spend a lot of time just wandering around. We see his dead mom, the ghost. We see a kid ghost of himself. And it's just Laurie constantly having visions. There's a big white horse. A lot of this stuff doesn't really make sense. Now, originally when I was making this list, I had this movie pretty far down. But it kind of got lifted, and the more I thought about it, Danielle Harris did a really good job playing Annie again. And Brad Dourif playing Brackett. I mean, his scene, once Annie's finally killed off in Halloween 2, I would say it's one of the most emotional scenes in the franchise. They really take a moment to spend time on a death of a character. And a lot of times these movies with slashers, they don't normally do that. So that's a nice change up for once. Another thing I read via comments, and this is kind of the nice thing about getting feedback sometimes. Someone mentioned that, Rob Zombie actually commits to Laurie losing her mind. There's no halfway doing it. She doesn't go partial crazy and then come back later and, defeats Michael and all this stuff. I mean, she kind of does, but I mean, we see Laurie just full out go crazy. And that is quite the creative decision. Does it work all the way? No, because of some of the things I mentioned before. But I give credit, to a pretty wild swing to take for the second movie of your franchise. And there are some really cool shots that Rob Zombie does. So it lifted up a few places on this list, and that's why this is number 10. My number 9 is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. After this movie, Tom Atkins had to get surgery on his back for carrying this movie so hard. I'm just kidding. But in all honesty, Tom Atkins is really fun to watch in this movie. He's kind of an anti-hero. He's not a good dad at all. I would say he's not a good husband, but I guess that's his ex-wife he's dealing with. But it's kind of funny, just seeing him just dodge responsibility of seeing his kids, picking up a hot chick, going out to solve a mystery, and drink a lot of beer. And even when he's trying to solve this mystery, he tells her, like, hey, let's just settle down for tonight. Let's drink a few. Let's take it easy. And just watching Tom Atkins be the ultimate womanizer. It's entertaining, to say the least. The plot's a kind of... It's fun. It's goofy fun. It's weird. It's just a fun movie in general. But the only downside is it doesn't have Michael Myers. A lot of people don't like it for that, but I mean, like, it's kind of had its renaissance with a lot of people, and I would say for me too. So that's why Halloween 3 is number 9. My number 8 is H2O. This movie kind of saved the franchise after Halloween 6. We got Jamie Lee Curtis back for the first time since Halloween 2. The movie has a very strong opening, and we also get a nice little relationship between Laurie and her son. There's like that dynamic of Laurie's too focused on Michael Myers every Halloween. The son's kind of tired of hearing about it. The final showdown between Laurie and Michael, it is a very good showdown between the two, unlike Halloween Ends. I mean, in general, this movie's just, again, a lot of fun. Does it have extremely high peaks in the franchise? Not really. I mean, like, it's kind of just a safe Halloween movie to me. It's entertaining, it's fun, and it has its moments. Laurie chopping Michael's head off with an axe, even though Resurrection retconned it. I mean, for the time, if you just pretend it's Michael, like, it's kind of a cool conclusion for Laurie and Michael. Now, the one thing I do kind of dislike, we kind of get away from Haddonfield, which I know this movie had to do, but I don't really get the Halloween vibes in this movie like I do other movies. So that kind of lowers it down a bit. There's also moments where we have like the CGI mask, like that it does not look good at all. These flaws are pretty minor, but overall it's just kind of a safe Halloween movie. And a pretty mainstream one. I think they were kind of trying to get that Scream vibe down for this movie. So for me it just feels a little different, but it's still fun. And that's why it's at number 8. My number 7 is Halloween 2. This is a great one, especially if you like the OG Halloween. It feels like a continuation right off of that film. The beginning's great with Dr. Loomis saying you don't know what death is. What a hype moment for this movie. It really gets the vibe started. We get Dr. Loomis on the pursuit in the original Halloween, but this film, he's kind of starting to go into overdrive, and we see hints of what's to come later in 4 and 5. There's a scene where a cop completely sandwiches Ben Tramer with another car, and then it explodes, and it's like one of the most gnarly deaths. That scene will never not be funny to me. I enjoy that scene. Things are going haywire in Haddonfield. Michael has some really cool kills in the hospital. The hospital gives these creepy vibes. I mean, most people think hospitals are creepy anyway, so it's a nice little atmosphere for the sequel. There's even that kill where Michael drains like the one lady's blood completely. It's completely gnarly. The firewalk at the end when Michael gets like his eyes shot out, and I don't know, the ending is just completely awesome when they blow up like half the hospital trying to kill him. I love that final confrontation with Laurie and Loomis and Michael just going at it. Very fun conclusion. The only downsides are Laurie spends most of the time sitting in a hospital bed. She even has visions of Michael being her brother, that's where that connection started in Halloween 2. But I mean, Laurie just sits around way too long, and there's some moments in the film where it kind of lulls a bit, but overall it's a pretty good movie. So that's my number 7. My number 6 is Halloween Kills. Halloween Kills actually got me back on the train to David Gordon Green's trilogy. For whatever reason, I wasn't feeling Halloween 2018. I was trying to be a critic or something, and I kind of wrote off the entire trilogy. But Halloween Kills, I feel like it kind of showed me the light, and I think the first moment it brought me back is when Michael rises out of the burning house that Laurie trapped him in, and kills off all those firefighters. There was like no scene like that in the Halloween franchise. Like, it kind of felt like a gritty Marvel movie. Like, it was like complete action and blood flinging everywhere. I love that, and as soon as that scene happened, I was on board. I'm like, let's go. And overall, like, this movie, like, it's the very beginning, it's like nonstop fun. Michael's just going around causing havoc, and the end itself is like kind of cool too. The only thing I do not like about Kills is the hospital scene where they confuse Michael Myers with basically the Penguin. There's a little round fat guy running around, and they're like, "Oh, it's Michael Myers," and it's like, "Oh, come on!" Like, you can't be serious. And they try to do a whole political message with, mob mentality isn't the way. Which, I mean, like, it's a good message, but they just tried to do too much. They showed a lot of characters in Haddonfield, which the character consistency was very good, and that is another good thing that this movie does. There's just times that I wish that they would have focused more on Allison, kind of get her story going a little bit. If they wanted to do a Corey story, this was the time to do it instead of Big John, Little John. But overall, I really like this movie. I really do. I know the second time I said, like, it wasn't as great as what I remembered it, but I think my member berries were just way too high. South Park reference if you don't get that. The Evil Dies Tonight chants can be a little much. So, I mean, if you take out the chants and you take out the hospital scene, like, you got a pretty freaking great movie. So, Halloween Kills is my number 6. And my number 5... Oh, Lord. Hey, just a reminder, these are just my opinions. Put the pitchforks down. I know this is going to be extremely controversial and not a well-liked pick. But my number 5 is the OG Halloween. Now, let me say this. I am perfectly aware of all that the OG Halloween has accomplished. It is, for me to say it's a great movie, that is an understatement. It is a pretty legendary movie. It has inspired so many other movies. You can't stop talking about how much this movie has influenced the horror genre. I mean, the shadow work, the score of this film. Without this film, like, this episode wouldn't exist. A lot of things that I've covered probably wouldn't exist. This movie is just completely legendary in terms of, pop culture and everything it's influenced, and just how it started this great franchise in general. As my rankings, as I got above, like, Rob Zombie 2, so I mean, like, 9 and up, I mean, like, there's a lot of good movies here. And I found it extremely hard for some of them, where should I place them? And I was going and going, like, and I had this one really high up. But this is where, like, I had to ask myself, what exactly am I measuring here when I'm doing these rankings? Like, is this, movies that are critically well done? Or is this, just movies of, like, which I would prefer on any given moment? And, I felt like these movies had to be, like, which I would prefer at any given moment. I'm no movie critic here. Now, as I placed Halloween at number 5, I kind of thought to myself, like, oh, Lord, like, this isn't going to be a good take at all for a lot of Halloween fans. But I look at the 4 movies above it, and I ask myself, if I had to sit down and put one of these movies in again, which one would it be? And I kept coming up with these 4 movies. I would choose them over the OG Halloween. That's just my personal preference. I think the OG Halloween is perfect for its time. I mean, all the horror movies that existed around it, like, they're paced in exactly the same way. If not, Halloween is better at it. But I just feel like sometimes there's some slow moments in the OG Halloween. I think Jamie Lee Curtis is not at her acting peak in this movie. I think this is, like, her worst job acting in the Halloween franchise. Even her dog crap movies in the Halloween franchise. I think she does a better job acting. I think she's just kind of too monotone in this film. Like, oh, I forgot my textbook. Like, oh, please tell me you didn't tell Ben Tramer. Please, Annie, please tell me. And I'm just like, I don't really care for it. I really don't. So that's why the OG Halloween, and I know that would probably disappoint a lot of people, is at number 5. And if I lied and if I put it at number 1, I wouldn't be being truthful to myself. I really wouldn't. I can't lie and just put it at number 1 or 2 just to please people if I'm doing an honest ranking here. So that's why OG Halloween is at number 5. My number 4 is Rob Zombie's Halloween. I'm going to start with the negatives here. Obviously, Rob Zombie's choice of constantly making characters trailer trash people. It's quite the choice. It can be kind of annoying. The stepdad, he is just completely obnoxious. But the more I watch this movie, it was a conscious choice. He was giving Michael Myers a reason to be as evil as he is. And to be honest, I kind of like it. Like, it takes some balls to try to explain Michael Myers' motivations, and he doesn't even completely do that. It's not like Michael Myers is walking around going, I didn't like Ronnie. But it gives you, just a little bit of background of Michael Myers as a child. And that is an extremely brave thing to do. I don't really mind the beginning, besides the white trash aspect of it all. That can grow kind of old a little bit. The director's cut, there is a rape scene, completely unneeded. But other than that, I completely enjoyed the movie. It's dark, it's brutal, it's Michael Myers at an extremely brutal point in the franchise. If you want violence, if you want blood, this is the movie to watch. And I really just enjoy it. I think they made the choice to bring back Loomis and actually try to do Loomis, unlike his sequel. And I think overall, it worked pretty well. I didn't mind it. I thought Malcolm McDowell did a really good job with it. Danielle Harris comes back as Annie. She did a great job. Scout Taylor Compton, great job as Laurie. I think she does better than Jamie Lee Curtis in the OG Halloween. Sorry, but I do think that. And I just enjoy this movie a little bit more than the OG Halloween. So that's why it's at number 4. My number 3 is, this is again going to be controversial, Halloween 5. Now listen, I know people loathe this movie. I know that. I know this is controversial, but honestly, I am a very strong defender of Halloween 5. And I like this movie in ways that I don't like Rob Zombie's Halloween movie. That's what I mean by there's a lot of different flavors of these movies. And this movie is a completely different flavor in itself. It's wacky, but I think overall, it's a blast of a Halloween movie. And I think it does some really cool things. A lot of people get mad that they killed off Rachel. The director did this to try to make the atmosphere to a point to where nobody's safe, and I do kind of appreciate that. I wish Rachel didn't have to die. I really liked her as a main character, but let's face it, Rachel had her character arc in Halloween 4. What else is she going to do? She's going to stand around and be Jamie's protector, Dr. Loomis is already doing that. That role's filled. They don't want to make Rachel a crappy sister again, or not even really crappy, just have that little arc where she's struggling with caring for the little Jamie, but then she overcomes it and, becomes the great big sister. She already did that, so she filled her role. They killed her off, and they bring in Tina. Tina gets a lot of flack from a lot of people. A lot of people describe her as the most annoying character in the franchise. I disagree. I think she's a very strong female character in this movie. A lot of people are like, oh, the bottom. Is that really such a wild thing for a high school / college female girl to do towards a little kid? Little kids, we're always making little noises or acting goofy to make them laugh or to appease them. And that's why her character's doing that. It's not like she's going and completely insane. She's just simply making noises going going towards Jamie. I really don't think it's that annoying as what the general fan base thinks it is. And that's just my opinion. A lot of people hate Tina. Okay. I disagree. And I think Tina this time gets the character arc of, she spends this entire time like trying to party. Loomis is like, you gotta stay home. And Loomis is like at his overall most crazy in this movie. And I love it. I love crazy Loomis. But going back to Tina for a second, I mean, if you're in high school / college and you have a good friend, Rachel, and she has a little sister and there's like a tragedy, she's in the hospital, you're doing your due diligence of going to the hospital, trying to make her laugh with silly noises, You're doing the whole thing. The little girl likes you so much that she can't talk. She says your name. And they're like, oh, Jamie talked. But and then like this like crazy old detective guy, not detective, he's a therapist or whatever, but he's trying to make you stay like with the little girl, and you're kind of just like, what? Like, no, like, I love that little girl, but like I got things to do, like I got a boyfriend / girlfriend, like, I want to go do these things. Like half the time when people are like, oh, Tina was too busy partying, yeah, Loomis was saying Michael Myers was on the prowl. But Tina had no way of knowing that. For all she knew, Dr. Loomis was the craziest lunatic ever. So I could see her motivation of not exactly wanting to rush to Jamie's side at every moment. I mean, by the end of the film, she sacrifices herself to save Jamie. If that's not enough for redemption, I don't know what is. Danielle Harris does another strong job despite them making her mute. I mean, the chase scene in the beginning, fantastic. Dr. Loomis shakes her up a bit, does not faze Jamie. My favorite scene, probably one of my favorite scenes in the franchise, is Michael Myers is chasing Jamie in the car, like in that like wooded area. Completely awesome. They have the score going on full blast. That is peak Halloween to me. I think it is just a great moment. And then we get like a final showdown between Loomis and Michael Myers. Yeah, he uses Jamie as bait, but hey, Dr. Loomis knows what he's doing. I mean, this isn't his first rodeo. He knew he was going to keep Jamie safe, right? No, but I do enjoy this movie a lot. I know it has its faults. I know the silly cop noises, the cookie woman scene, those are so bad I find them funny and I kind of enjoy it. It's a nice little break if you're watching the serious Halloween movies that just pop on Halloween 5 and, you get some goofiness, you get some silliness, and then you get some awesome scenes on top of it. I am a very strong defender of Halloween 5. Halloween 5 is probably higher on my list than anyone else's. But if you agree with me, please express your opinion in the comments. I love to hear that because I don't think there's going to be much of that. Oh, and let me say one more thing else about Halloween 5 that I strongly believe, and I feel like it's never voiced. Halloween 5 put all these elements of story building, world building into the movie, hoping that whoever would take Halloween 6 would build upon that. We have the man in black. We have the little symbol on his wrist, the Cult of Thorn. Halloween 5 did not mess that up. Halloween 6 did. Like, Halloween 5 built like half a bridge, and they were like, hey guys, use this for your next movie. Like, here's some nice story points. Like, it was to a point to where Quentin Tarantino wanted to do a Halloween 6. He had an idea for it. They didn't let him. Like, the two didn't work it out. So, I mean, there was a lot of interest after Halloween 5 after this came out because, like, there was lots of things built ahead. All you had to do was finish the story. But too much junk happened with number 6, and Halloween 6, instead of using that half-built bridge and building it across that river to end this trilogy on a very good note, Halloween 6 poured gasoline all over it and lit the match and burned the whole thing down. So I think Halloween 5 catches a lot of flack just because of the incompetence of Halloween 6. Sorry, I'm coming on strongly here. So yeah, that's my number 3, Halloween 5. Time for my number 2. My number 2 is Halloween 18. For whatever reason, the first time I watched this movie, I was completely cynical. I acted like I didn't like it. On the rewatch, I love it. It has climbed so high. It is the farthest climber of any movie on this list. I really, really like it. We got Jamie Lee Curtis yet again. I wasn't quite ready for that at the time. I'm like, man, they need to quit bringing her back. But they brought her back. They gave her a daughter, gave her a granddaughter. The chemistry between those three, fantastic. We have that dinner scene. Jamie Lee Curtis is breaking down crying. Awesome moment, nice emotional moments. We need more emotional moments in Halloween movies sometimes. This movie gives them, but it doesn't suffer because of it. The atmosphere is great. That score, holy crap, the that goes on while they're playing the typical Halloween score. Chef's kiss. The kills are just phenomenal. I really enjoy Halloween 18. They put in a lot of cool stuff here. They had a little plot device with Hawkins. I was really hoping they were going to evolve that, but Halloween Ends had other plans. But I try not to, just like Halloween 6 burnt that Halloween 5 bridge down, I try not to let the Halloween 18/Kills bridge get burnt down by the Halloween Ends act. So yeah, I am very big on Halloween 18 now. I've completely came around on it. It has climbed to number 2 on my list. My number 1 is Halloween 4. Halloween 4, I can't say enough about it. They bring Michael Myers back with a vengeance. Dr. Loomis comes back. He's chasing after him. We have the beginning of crazy Dr. Loomis, which is my favorite Dr. Loomis. We have Jamie, who I think did the best acting job of any child ever. Just phenomenal acting for a child. I can't say that enough. Rachel, very good character. That character arc of where she wants to go hang with her boyfriend, and she's all mad. Jamie hears about it. Jamie's sad. Jamie gets picked on at school. Rachel steps up as the older sister. Defends Jamie. They're on the rooftop, escaping from Michael Myers. We got Rachel's boyfriend. Is it Brady? This movie does so good with its characters that the boyfriend of one of the main characters, Brady, cheats on her with another girl. And I still find myself, I still like Brady, despite it happening. Somehow the movie does a good enough job to where it's like, man, Brady really messed up. That chick was really hot that he went with. I don't want to say I don't blame him, but I don't know. I like Brady, and I like all the characters in this movie. And they have that nice little conflict where they're all stuck in the same house, and you can just feel the tension. The scene where Michael Myers kills Brady, awesome. The darkness in this movie feels legitimately scary. And sometimes they struggle to do that in Halloween movies. A lot of times they're fun, but not exactly scary. I feel like this movie sometimes gives a scary vibe. Overall, I completely love this movie. The one thing you can knock on it is the albino Michael Myers that shows up at the school. Looks completely goofy. They didn't have a big enough budget to fix it. I don't know how. The movie's non-stop fun. Even the ending where we get Jamie attacking her mom. That's a crazy ending they went with. Probably a good thing Halloween 5 didn't continue that arc. I can't imagine little Jamie being a killer would be as fun as watching Michael Myers as a killer, but it was still fun to end on in Halloween 4. So yeah, this is my favorite Halloween movie of all time. It's going to be very hard for a movie to change that. Even the Dr. Loomis scene where he's at the gas station and he meets Michael again. Ooh, I love that. So yeah, that's my number 1 pick, number 1 movie of the entire franchise, Halloween 4. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. Very hard to do, especially once you get past the few crappers. They're hard to place. They really are, because there's a lot of good Halloween movies out there. I really enjoyed doing this. If you disagree with me, just remember it's my opinion. Tell me what you think. Tell me your ranking, because that's always fun to do, seeing what it is compared to others. I know a lot of people feel strongly about different movies. There's even people that stick up for Halloween Resurrection. Or even Halloween Ends. They stick up for that movie. And, every person has their own personal taste. So yeah, comment your rankings. I want to see them. If you're going to bash mine, at least post yours. But yeah, overall, if you're still listening, though, guys, I truly appreciate it. Some of the feedback I get for some of these episodes is just phenomenal. Sometimes I'm shocked that I'm getting so much feedback. It's kind of humbling sometimes, and it's nice to see. I know people love Halloween. A lot of people come out for Halloween, so I enjoy it too. I watch it about once every year around Halloween time, just like everyone else. When they come on TV, I hope Halloween 4 is playing. I'm literally watching Halloween 4 every year. The other ones, I kind of rotate them. But yeah, so this was my list. I hope you guys enjoyed listening. Feel free to subscribe so you find out, what the next movies are. I am going to find another franchise to marathon and then rank those movies. So if you enjoyed this little ride of covering all the Halloween movies, subscribe so you know when the next one's coming out. Again, thank you for listening so much. Feel free to give this video a like so it gets to other people. Man, I'm encroaching upon 40 minutes. This was a long episode. Sometimes you need that, though, especially when you're ranking a franchise like Halloween. So it happens. Again, thank you so much, and until next time, guys.